I have had those clients who were like, we felt done, and then we conceived twins. Yeah. And I mean, we're so adaptable as humans. People come around to it and are excited, you know, it just takes a little
Yeah.
time. But yeah, to be that ultrasound tech, like not, she didn't choose to be a psychotherapist, you know?
Right. Yeah, no, I can only imagine the things that that woman has seen, like the reactions that she's probably seen. They probably run the gamut. Which, you know, all of
Yeah.
our kids have been like very intentional. So we, you know, we have probably been like the best case scenario customers, right? Customers or
Uh-huh. Yeah.
clients or whatever. But I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a lot of people that are like, please just let it not be true, or like, oh my God, there's two,
Mhm.
or you know, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's challenging.
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. So fast forward, you are pregnant with twins, and then you like, what do you had, right? I'm a home birth midwife. You were in obstetric care for a little while. Like, would you be willing to talk about that journey and like
Yeah, definitely.
what your struggles were with the hospital care and what you were looking for when you
Yeah.
reached out?
Yeah. So originally, so when I first got pregnant with Orion, I was like, I'm going to have a hospital birth. Why would anybody ever have home birth? Why would you assume all of the conveniences and safeties of modern medicine in order to give birth in your living room and have to clean up after it? Like, that was my mentality before I
Uh-huh.
ever had gotten pregnant. Um, and then over the course of that pregnancy, I was in OB care until about 25 weeks. And she was a midwife, a former midwife turned OB. I had a girlfriend who was a home birth mom with her second due to birth trauma with her first. And she was sort of my crunchy mom. Like she like pointed me in the right directions without ever pushing me. And then I ended up going with hypno babies for my birth education. And somewhere in there, I went from why would anybody ever home birth to why in the world would anybody ever go to a hospital unless they had a medical complication? Like, really wide, like just really wide. So both my first and my second were born in birth centers, and I intended for my third to be a home birth because my first birth was I had to drive 45 minutes to get to the birth center, and we left at 7, and I had him at 10:15. And then my second birth, I'm really glad we moved into town because originally we had been living in Entiat when I got pregnant, but we moved to East Wenatchee, which is really good because I think the time between first midwife contact, which is like 8:36, and then she was born at like 9:41. So an hour and 15 minutes on the second birth. So I knew my third birth was probably gonna follow suit. Probably gonna be fast. And I was like, I should just home birth. I
Yeah.
have no complications. I know what I'm doing to a certain extent. And as long as I have somebody here that's gonna keep us safe, I mean, we live in town, we're close to the hospital, like we'll just home birth. It's gonna make everything so much easier. Um,
Mhm.
but then so my first appointment at 6 weeks was actually with the midwives at the birth center. And then obviously the ultrasound happened and we were elated and we were like, we have two babies. This is amazing. And then, you know, my husband probably stayed there for a little bit. I was immediately like, shit. Because I already knew that the midwives could not take on a twin birth at the birth center. Um,
Oh,
what I didn't realize at the time, like I knew that they wouldn't do it because Sonia had already mentioned that. Sonia being the midwife that I had had an appointment with at 6 weeks. Um, but what I didn't know, and I found out later, is that in Washington State, birth centers are not allowed to do twin births, only individual midwives. Um, so I think at first I was like, oh, well, maybe I can get, you know, the birth center midwives to do a home delivery, but their liability insurance doesn't really provide for that. And I don't think they have a non-compete clause, but I think like the owner is like, oh, because she doesn't want her midwives like embroiled in some sort of a lawsuit. And I get it. Like, I totally understand that we live in a litigious culture and that people are really mistrustful of Western medicine, even people who are maybe, or of Eastern medicine or, older medical practices, even if they sought them out to begin with,
Mhm.
right? Like, because that's just the society we live in.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I guess in a perfect world, I was like, I know there's more risk. I don't mind having a hospital birth. I just want it to be in a room by myself with nobody there unless I need them, right? So maybe I can just talk them into that. And they referred me to
Yeah.
see
Good luck.
Dr. Wells. Yeah, right? Yeah, as I found
Mhm.
out. So they referred me to see Dr. Wells, and I made an appointment with him. And right before I left for that appointment, Dallas was texting me from work and he's like, hey, you have to go pick up this toy that I found on Facebook Marketplace that I want to buy for our kids. And I was like, are you kidding me? Fine. I already have to leave work. I'm going to go to this appointment. It's on the way. I'll get it on my way back. And I was like, he's ridiculous. Anyway, so I went to this appointment with Dr. Wells. And, interestingly, I had gone to get a massage from Mel, who had done all of my prenatal and postnatal massage. And I had a subscription with Lyra after the ultrasound, but before the OB appointment. And she was the one that was like, oh, yeah,
Sorry, hey Elizabeth, sorry, you cut out. You were saying you went to see Mel for your appointments. Will you just start there again?
yeah. So I went to go see Mel for my massage appointment between the ultrasound and the OB appointment. And Mel had been doing my massage since before I had Lyra, and I had a monthly subscription with her. So we were pretty familiar with each other. And I told her that I was pregnant with twins and that I had this appointment coming up. And she actually gave me some tips on what to ask, because she was already familiar with this in a way that I was not. And she was like, oh, well, you have to make sure that they're going to let you give birth not in the OR because
Yeah.
they ask you to give birth in the OR, which I didn't know before that. I had no
Yeah.
idea.
Isn't that, yeah, crazy but true?
Absolutely brutal. Like, why? And then she told me that I had to make sure that he'd go on call for me because even if he was willing to let me give birth not in the OR, if he wasn't willing to go on call, that it didn't really
You don't
matter.
know who you're gonna get. Yeah.
So I walked in with a little bit of insight because of her, which was absolutely a blessing. Like, I don't know what I did. Thank you, universe, right? But um, so there were a couple key things that happened at that appointment that gave me sort of a discomfort. And one is that when I asked, I was like, look, I've had two kids. I have quick labors. I've never had any complications. I don't want to give birth to these kids in the OR. I want a birthing room and I want it relatively undisturbed. Would you be willing to facilitate that? He was like, let's see as we go along. And as long as there are no complications, like we can talk about it later. Which wasn't a yes. It wasn't a vote of confidence. And then when I asked him if he would go on call, he was like, oh, well, if you're not going to let me induce you, I can't guarantee that I'm going to be your physician at delivery. And I was like, well, I don't know where that leaves us. And I was like, oh, God, what am I going to do? But then there was this kind of penultimate moment in the appointment where we were talking about goes and no goes. And he's like, well, if baby A is breached, that's no go. We're going straight to C-section. And I was like, well, I don't love that. And then he was like, but if baby B is breached, like that's totally okay. Actually, I prefer it because if baby B is breech, I can just reach right up there, grab his feet, and pull him right out.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I'm like, sir, that is my uterus that you are talking about right now. Like, reach my hand right up there. You're talking about my cervix and my uterus and putting, like, literally fisting me without permission, like, as your preference.
Uh-huh.
If the
Protocol.
baby if the baby takes too long, which based on everything I've read is like 6 minutes. Like if you haven't gone right back into active labor in 6 minutes, like they start taking steps to try and hurry things along, which is bananas to
It's
me.
amazing. Yeah, having been to twin home births, like sometimes it's hours. I've heard of
Like,
it being days.
like
I've
give
never
your
been
body
to those.
some time to work, you know? Like you just
Yeah,
built this big thing, you just gave birth to a baby. Like, give me a break, dude.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
Anyway,
So were those the break? Did those were those like deal breakers for you? Those last
so
two?
I definitely left the appointment not feeling super great about the
Mhm.
whole scenario. But
Yeah.
the craziest thing is that I went to go get that toy, right? And when I walked up to this woman's door, she was like, "Oh, here's the toy." And she's like, "How old are your kids?" And I was like, "Oh, well, they're 4 and they're 3. And I'm actually just fresh from an OB appointment with my 9 to 10 week old twins." And she was like, "Oh my God, I had twins 10 years ago." And I was like,
Oh, well.
"Oh, really?" And she's like, "Yeah, I had them right up the street at the hospital you just came from." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And she's like, "Yeah, I had them with the OB that you just talked to." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And she was like, "Yeah, he wasn't my OB, he was just the on call OB." And they wheeled me into the OR. And the first thing he said to me ever in my life, the first time meeting this human ever, while I'm in labor, is, "Do you want a C section?" Opening comment. And then she
Uh-huh.
describes to me laying on this metal table in the bright lights with 12 people standing around playing on their
Oh,
phones while she's
oh,
trying to give birth. And girl, I could not, like, I could not imagine giving birth. Like, my first birth, I had no idea what was gonna happen, right? It was just me and my husband. And like they asked me at like when I was there in labor, they're like, "Do you want us to stay here or do you want us to keep checking up on you?" And I had never even thought about like what I wanted in regard to that. And I was like, "Go away." Like,
uh-huh.
like I was just like, "Yeah, just check on me later." Um, and I just gave birth with like my husband and the doula. And then when we gave birth with Lyra, it was literally just me and Dallas. And like Sonia was like hiding around the corner because of the way that their room is. Like she was like standing near the sink, like literally around the corner. I could not see her until the baby was outside of me. Um, and so here I am thinking about like bright lights and like people that I don't know, just like standing around, and I just balked. I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I had so much trouble with that decision. Um, like I talked to Dallas over and over again, like asked for reassurance constantly. I was like, is this okay? Like that I can't do it. Is it okay that I don't do it? Like it might be the
Uh-huh.
safer option for our kids. It might not be, but I can't do it. Like I literally I can't do it. Because I was so terrified. And so many people are like hearing that I home birthed my twins, they're like, "You're so brave." But I was terrified. I could not go into that scenario. Like I couldn't.
Yeah.
Um, and then it was just a matter of how am I going to do it instead? And I talked the entire gamut. Like I literally talked to Mel about like, what if I free birth and just give you a call when I go into labor? Like you no liability, we won't sign any paperwork. You could just like come and make sure that if anything looks crazy, like that you let us know because you have more birth experience. Like I ran the entire
Mhm.
gamut. And it was maddening. I talked to the birth center midwives. I talked to everybody that I could possibly talk to because you were the only person that was willing to take me on. Um, that and you even live 2.5 miles away, and I'm like, well, my labors are really short, so. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. This is the only option for me because I could not get anybody closer. Um, and recently, I was talking to a twin mom that talked to the other midwife that lives the same distance from you or distance from here as you do, but in the other
Uh-huh.
direction, sort of.
Yeah.
Um, and apparently, she can't assemble a large enough birth team because she wants 5 people, as opposed to like you wanting 3 and maybe an extra helper or another
Yeah.
experienced body.
Yeah. It's hard to get a big team around here, a big enough team for some people. So yeah, you kind of have
And
to go
it's
with what you got.
Dude, and it's so challenging because like women deserve more options.
Yeah.
Like we deserve to have more control. And it's not like and the maddening part was that there were like there's a midwife that lives less than 2 blocks from me. There are 15 midwives in this town.
Yeah.
And because of the law and because of liability and because of the lack of like faith, right? Like this branding of like high risk that you get as soon as you're diagnosed with twins. I literally gave birth to my other children in 3 hours and 1 hour and 15 minutes. And I walked and jumped and ran and played with my kids and got up and down off tables for appointments, like until I gave birth. And I was up and about within days. Like, so don't tell me I'm
Mhm.
high risk. Like, my body knows what it's doing. I know how to do this. Like, I understand that some people have medical issues associated with birth, but I don't believe that twins should be an automatic high risk diagnosis. Like, you have to look at the nuance of the case. Like, I was
Yeah.
never high risk.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing about standards and, regulations is they're not nuanced.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
Nuanced. Yeah. So, yeah, and there are things, right? Of course, and you knew that. Like, there are things that can happen at birth, and you knew that. That's why you were
Yeah.
like, well, I wish I could, in some ways, just get on that OR table and be there in case an emergency happens, because sometimes emergencies happen.
Right.
But you're like, your whole being was like, this is so wrong when you imagined yourself there. Like, that's
Yeah.
just not the way. And also, you had this lived experience. You had like proven that you can birth and don't, yeah, without complication. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you did
Yeah.
the same with your twins. I mean, literally 29 seconds apart, maybe. I
No,
think
I think they are literally 20 seconds apart. I
20.
mean, it's hard to tell, but like
Yeah.
Sarah picked up like as I was so uh, I mean, we can talk a little bit more about that like as we get to the end.
What was it about me and the way that I presented myself that you knew like you were in a situation that felt good? Was it just like, this lady will come to my house and deliver these babies, or was there,
So
to some
I will
extent?
say
Yes.
that at even when I scheduled our first appointment, like I still had an OB appointment scheduled, right? I was like straddling the fence until probably and I say straddling the fence, not really. I was pretty sure I knew that there's no way I could
Yeah.
do that. But like there was a lot of guilt in making that decision or like uncertainty because I felt
Uh-huh.
like I was making a decision for myself that was not the best decision for my babies. And it
Mm,
took me a while to decide kind of that the best decision for me was the best decision for them, which is the right answer.
yeah.
But um, in
And
most cases, I imagine, I'm sure
it,
there's
there's so
outliers.
much culturally, so much cultural programming again around like, we are separate from our babies, but that's just, yeah, it takes a while to work through that, to realize like, actually, when a mom feels like this is what's safest for me, it's also what's safest for the babies. Like,
Which, I actually I already knew that, right? Because in hypnobirthing, they talk about how like the cascade of interventions starts the moment you walk through the door of the hospital. Because once fear enters the body, right, your body is literally programmed to stop labor in scary situations so that you can escape.
yeah,
So you have to stay away. Like the more comfortable you are, the quicker and faster and easier everything is going to go because so it's really just about picking the option that's the least scary for you, which for some
yeah,
people that is the hospital. I just
totally.
talked to a twin mom that like she was like, no, I'm afraid to do it at home. And I was like, then do it at the hospital. If you are comfortable in that format and not comfortable at your house,
Yeah,
right? Then pick the option that makes your brain feel better, that makes your
yeah.
heart feel better. Because when your brain and your heart feel good, labor happens.
Labor flows. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Wherever, yeah, I like to say wherever you feel safest is where it's,
Right.
yeah, that's the best place to have your baby or your babies. Labor will
And I
flow.
have Right. And I have a friend that like has had multiple cosmetic surgeries and she was so grateful that her child needed a C-section because she was like so much easier, little incision, blah, blah, blah. But like when I hear C-section, I'm like, you want to cut through my abdominal wall? Excuse me, what? Right? Like my views on being literally cut open on an operating table are a lot different than hers.
Yeah.
She's like, oh yeah, it's just a little surgery. And I'm like, what? A surgery? So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
it's very personal, it's very
So personal.
individual. But
Yeah.
then I met you, right? And you have, you I don't know how to explain it other than like wise woman energy. I don't know, you feel like a safe, smart place for me. Um, like somebody who is very in touch with themselves, somebody who's very comfortable with themselves, somebody's very comfortable with other people, and you make it easy to feel comfortable around you. And I was like, this is a person that if they are by my side while I'm birthing, they will be an asset to my frame of mind. Um, rather than any sort of thing that's going to worry me, right? I trusted you instantly. I mean, you literally walked into my house and my daughter looked at you and was like, I love you.
So sweet. I instantly loved her too. And
She
then
was
I
also
unpack
very
my
easy to love.
bag and use every instrument that I had. It was so fun.
The kids are something, man. They don't
Oh,
know a stranger, that's for sure.
oh.
But yeah, I mean, and yeah, you did really like you had like that not only the atmosphere for me, but my kids were obviously very comfortable with you, and there was never a doubt in my mind. I don't know, like from the moment I met you that you were a safe person for me, and like when I looked at your website, I could tell that you were like more crunchy than me, like more on that like kind of radical free birth side. But at no point in any of our conversations ever throughout the entire thing did you ever tell me what I should do. Right. And I love that. Right. You respected my intelligence from the beginning. You expected my sovereignty over my own body from the very beginning. And I don't know, you're just a very safe person. Recently, I had the luxury, the wonderfulness of sort of mentoring this woman who is also pregnant with twins and guiding her through sort of the same path that I had to walk. And during that time, there were some conversations that came up about um, you and some other people had said some things about like maybe you weren't somebody that she should trust or whatever. And I was like, that is absolutely ridiculous. Like I can't even imagine where these people like absolutely hear where they're coming from. Absolutely check out what they're telling you. Like you should always make informed consensual decisions. Like informed consent is key. But
Yeah.
I'm telling you that based on my experience, based on everything that I know of this human, which we have like a year and a half long intimate relationship that
Yeah.
like I mean it literally borders on like I would say people probably date people for a year and a half and know less about them than like about me
Yeah.
at this point.
It's something I
Um,
know about being a midwife. It's just being in the center of people's lives. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, like what they're saying, it doesn't track. It doesn't track with anything I know. Um, and I'm very happy she's actually now a client of yours. And I love that for her because I know that I know it's going to be beautiful. I know that her experience with you is just going to be so amazing. I'm so excited.
Oh. Oh. Yeah, maybe we'll hear her story in a year. um yeah, and then let's see what's next. I mean that's a lot already. And also like does your family need you right now? Are
No,
you
they're
good?
fine.
Okay.
Um,
Amazing. Yeah, you have like a tiny village.
yeah, Dad's got the babies. I nursed right before I came up, and Dallas was cooking dinner, and the
Okay.
babies are eating so well right now that like I'll nurse them for bedtime for funsies because it helps them fall asleep. But
Yeah.
like they're fine.
Yeah. Anything about your pregnancy that you want to say about being pregnant with twins? Or like, I mean, you already said you were just being like a normal human being, able bodied.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that sort of caught me off guard was how much earlier Braxton Hicks started. Like,
Mhm.
and the
When
other
did they
woman that I
start
was
for
talking about, probably around 18 weeks.
you? Mhm.
With Lyra, they started at 26 weeks, and I didn't have a single one with Orion. So it was early. It was like 18 weeks. I was like, is this what this is? There's no way. Um, And that the other twin mom I was talking about, she said the same thing. Like they started really
Yeah.
early with her too.
Yeah.
Like
The
before her.
uterine size at like 18, 20 weeks is similar. It's a little less than at 26 weeks, but it is, yeah, it's a similar uterine size.
So that was different. Other than that, I was just bigger. I often wondered because I carry so small and I am so functional during pregnancy and I have so few pregnancy symptoms that I was like, I wonder if this is how regular people feel while they're pregnant. Which is like a bratty thing to think about, but like, it was a legitimate curiosity of mine. I was like, I wonder if this is what most women experience carrying one baby, um, that I am now experiencing with two. And then we did have right around 32 to 34 weeks. I started having kind of more powerful contractions, and I was worried. And I came up and you checked my dilation, and I was a little bit dilated. And at that point, we decided to do a progesterone supplement just to make sure that we made it to 36 weeks because I was very anti-NICU.
Yeah.
So we jumped through some hoops there. And then as we approached 36 weeks, I want to say that was like at 32 weeks. And then as we approached 35-ish weeks, um, my blood pressure was high. And we didn't do gestational diabetes because I hadn't had it with the other two, and my diet was really good. Protein. So one of the hardest parts, right? And you told me very early on that getting enough protein was the secret to carrying twins to term. Which, it's crazy how nobody talks about that. But getting enough protein was insane, especially in the third trimester. And I will say that the cheat code that I wish I had discovered sooner is that there's a chocolate ice or a vanilla ice cream protein powder that Costco sells. And there is now Dairy Gold Fit, which is a lactose-free milk with 14 grams of protein per cup, and they make a chocolate version. And if you mix the chocolate version with that protein powder, that vanilla ice cream protein powder, it's literally a chocolate shake. And it takes
Nice.
up almost no room, and you could drink like a million of it. Like, and it's not too sweet, but anyway, highly recommend. Amazing. That and obviously
Yeah.
bone
And it
broth.
sounds like that would be like 30 grams of protein and basically like a cup and a half of fluid.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It was
Just,
intense.
yeah.
It was
Because you're
the
trying to
the
get like, what did we say? Like 120 grams
like
a
120
day?
grams.
Yeah.
And especially if you're trying to do it without taking in a ton of sugar, right? Because there are other things like you can get those 30-gram protein shakes, right? And you could drink four of them, and then you could eat protein bars, but like 30-gram protein bars, but you would be taking in so many just like sugar, just so much
Uh-huh.
sugar. And that was my obstacle. I was like, how do I get this protein without literally pumping my body full of sugar?
Uh-huh.
Which
Interesting.
the lactose-free milk is really helpful for that because it doesn't have a ton of sugar in it. And that protein powder doesn't have a ton of sugar either. So it was like a really good happy medium with just like a ton of protein. The other thing is Costco does Madras lentils, which have like 16 to 18 grams a bag. And then I would do two chicken thighs shredded up, which is like another 30-ish, 30 or 40 grams of protein, and throw it in the lentils and just eat it all together. And
Yeah.
it's sort of like this good chicken chili, and that's like another like 40 to 50 gram of protein meal. So if you did a shake and that once a day, as well as a 9-gram cup of bone broth, and then you just ate normally, passed out a couple eggs, whatever.
Uh-huh.
You did okay. Like you were close.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is really
Then
crucial to get enough protein and enough calories in general to keep those babies in. I feel like Western medicine, obstetrics, they're just like, oh, they just come early, but it's because they're starving. Like
yeah,
they're trying to get a meal, so they have to come out. Yeah, there's so
right.
much more to stay in if they're being nourished. And what were their weights at birth?
So they came at 36 and 7.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they were 7. So Argo was 7 pounds and Velo was 6 pounds, 12 ounces. And they were both, I think it was 20 and 20 and a half inches for
Inches.
length.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we did I don't know if we needed to, but we did end up doing the castor oil shake the morning that I went in. We had two false alarms. And as soon as we hit 36 weeks, I was like, babies come out, babies come out, babies come out. And then we had two false alarms. 'Cause I went off the progesterone, and then we had the 2 nights that I thought I was gonna have the babies, one of which I went into really intense labor and then just fell asleep. And then the other, it was sort of getting intense, and then it kind of came in and out. Um, and then it was the morning of 36 and 7. It was oh my gosh, was it a Friday? A Thursday?
It was definitely a weekday because you had
Yeah.
your kids at the dentist.
Right. And that morning we decided to do castor oil. And I did the castor oil shake that you gave me, and nothing was happening, and nothing had been happening for like 24 hours. My husband was headed out the door with all 4 kids at the time, or three kids at the time, to go to the dentist. And he's like, "Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And so I hopped in the car and we got to the dentist office, and I was sitting in the waiting room and I started to have contractions. And I was like, hmm. And then we went into the room and they were still there. And by the time we got to the end of the appointment, they were like, "Oh, let's book appointments for 6 months out for your next appointment." And I was like, "Cool, you should book appointments for the twins too." And they were like, "Oh, well, when are they due?" And I was like, "I'm in labor." So they rushed
Oh,
us out. We left there about 9:30. Their appointment was at 9. So it really started somewhere between 8:45 and 9:30. And then we drove my eldest, who's 17 now, so she would have been 15 at the time, over to the high school, which is close to our house, a little out of the way. It added about 6 minutes, I think. And I was on the phone. I called you. I think I sent you a text while I was in the dentist's office. And then I called you after I was gone. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is it. I'm going to go home and time my contractions. And then I'll give you a call." And then I like went home and I like sat down on my bed and I was like, Dallas, you gotta call the midwife. Like you gotta. And so he called you, and I think that was maybe 9:46, somewhere in there. And I was like, "I'm getting in the shower," because I've always heard that's nice. I've never done it, but I heard it's nice. I'm gonna do that. So I got in the
yeah.
shower. And maybe it wasn't. I think it was a little bit later than, because we left at 9:30, maybe, yeah, maybe 9:45, somewhere in there. And then I got out of the shower at like 10, maybe 10:15 or so. And I was like, "Dallas, is anyone coming?" And he was like, "I haven't heard from anybody." And I was like, "You're not gonna like this. Fill the tub. Like, this is happening." And like,
Uh-huh.
I don't think I was quite as jovial about it, but like, that is actual dialogue that actually happened, like somewhere around 10:15 that morning. And
Hmm.
um, I climbed in the tub and it was just me and him and our friend Jess. And she was like rubbing my shoulders and he was there. So I had gone to Mel again just before I had gone into labor. It was after the false alarms, but before I'd actually gone into labor. And she was
Hmm.
like, "Okay, you want to bring this labor on. Next time you get a contraction, drop into a squat and breathe down and out." And while I was laying in that tub, all I could think is, "Breathe down and out, Elizabeth." And every time I had a contraction, and it's funny too, because like this is my third birth, and the first time I figured out how to breathe, I don't know. But the entire time I was laying there in the tub, I was just like, every time a contraction rolled through, I'm like, "Down and out, down and out, down and out, breathe down and out, Elizabeth." It was like my mantra for like the entire
Yeah,
thing.
it's a
And
beautiful
then,
mantra.
and then Sarah got there, at 10:07 ish, 10:10, somewhere in there between 10 or 11:10 and 11,
Yeah. Meanwhile, I
11.
just want
Yeah.
to say, like, I'm driving. I'm breaking so many laws. I'm waving at people, like big smile, waving at them as I'm going 85 miles an hour down the small 2-lane valley road. Like, hi, I'm just passing you. I've got somewhere to go.
Oh my gosh. Oh, how'd you get up here?
Oh. But yeah, Sarah was the person to call.
Max
Um,
isn't. I think it's out back.
Sarah was the person to call because well, I called everybody, but she was the person who was able to get there the fastest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey,
So
okay.
anyway, she got there at maybe 10:10.
Yeah. I want to play with the toys when I was baby. No, no, not this one. But there are baby toys down in the baby pen that I brought down last night. Hey, hey, you can take these. Are those baby toys? These are dog leashes. This is not what I thought it was. Here, you can take this. Go open that new playroom and see what it is. Go to your playroom. Sorry. So
Okay.
Sarah got there, and she was like working through trying to get set up, and she called you, right? And in that little lull, and we had talked about recording, and this is how I know it was 20 seconds. We had talked about recording the birth for Birth Without Borders or Breach Without
Right.
Borders. Um, so that was the intention. So she was like getting things set up for the birth, and then she was going to get things up to record it, and she was calling you to let you know that she was there, and I could hear her, and she was like, yeah, no, she's not vocalizing, she's breathing through them, I think we've got some time, like everything's going to be okay. And I was like, Sarah, I'm crowning.
Yeah, because before that, I had, I'm going in and out of service also while I'm driving. And Dallas had called me and he was like, she's in the tub. Like, I know these sounds. Like, I know, like, she's about to have these babies. I was like, I am driving just as fast as I can. But yeah. Yeah. So
But then
he
she
knew.
like when I think when I said I'm crowning, she like hung up with you quickly, turned the video recorder on, and like I pushed once and I delivered Argo's head. And then I said the words, "Oh my gosh, the shoulders are the worst part." And then I pushed him out the rest of the way, not on a contraction. I was just like, no, I'm not uncomfortable. I don't like the way this feels with him like halfway in and out of me. Like I'm not doing
Uh-huh.
this. And I just pushed him out. Like
Yeah.
just out of sheer force of will. I was like, I'm not doing it. Um and Dallas picked him up out of the water. And that's about where the video starts, is Dallas like pulling him up out of the water. And he's like, really, he doesn't have good color, and they're sort of fussing over him, and he's sort of rubbing him, trying to get him to cry. And then he does.
Mhm.
And then, gosh, I want to say I was like, it was not very long. Obviously, it was only a couple of seconds, and then I like started to have another contraction, and I can't remember if they handed him to me before I had the contraction. I think I was already holding him when I had the contraction, and
Uh-huh.
she was born on that contraction, like her entire everything. Like there was no
And
in between. She was just there. She was, and he pulled her out, and it was crazy because we had worked so hard to get him to cry, and he was struggling so hard, and she didn't cry either. And I was so anxious, but she didn't cry because
mm,
she was just watching. She was like,
she
what
was
is happening? What is all of this? And they laid her on me too, and we were all fussing over Argo, and she laid there quiet as a little mouse and just
mhm.
watched as we like gave him some breaths and like tried to like make sure he was okay. And he
Yeah.
was. Obviously he's fine. He's a big, healthy, chunky boy now.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and she just laid there. And then I got her to latch right away. He really struggled, but and then you showed up and everybody else kind of trickled in. And we spent the next 4 hours trying to get Argo to breathe well. And then eventually you and Dallas took Argo to the hospital to get him put on a CPAP. And I was so grateful that, well, everything went okay with the birth, right? Having
Yeah.
your expert guidance there at the end, like getting us through to the point where we made the decision, helping us make the decision, and then taking Dallas and getting Argo checked in with all of the right information, and providing us with the information that I should not go at first because they're going to want to admit me and the other baby. So that, I did have still a very peaceful postpartum. I was just down the hall from Argo for those first couple days, and I had to like, sort of have somebody watch Bella so I could go down there because they wouldn't let me hold both of them at the same time for those first 2 days. But other than that, I mean, it was perfect. And without you, we may have all ended up like separated and very institutionally cared for right there at the end,
Mhm.
even though we had done all the real work ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it was just, it was still the absolutely beautiful, perfect home birth. And honestly, it was probably a more peaceful time hanging out at the hospital because I didn't have to deal with my toddlers.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's like the silver lining is like, oh, actually, we have kind of a cocoon here that we wouldn't have had at home.
Right.
Um,
So
yeah,
I think
benefits and
everything worked out
drawbacks, but
perfect.
yeah, yeah, it was the right place to be in that case. And you weren't
Yeah.
there very long.
No, we were there for 48 hours and they pulled him off the CPAP machine after like 14 hours. And the
Hmm.
only reason we were there for 48 is because they were waiting on blood culture results. Because one of the things we didn't talk about is I had an ultrasound at 36 weeks. The reason why we did, and I had forgotten this, the reason why we did that castor oil is not because I had had two false alarms. It's because my waters were open.
Yeah, your
Because
waters were open for a couple of days, I think, and finally you were just like, we kept talking through risks and what you wanted to do, and finally you were like, I think it's time for the castor oil, and
uh,
yeah,
just trying to speed things along just for safety. And he
yeah,
didn't have any issues, obviously, but it was like the medical model is like 24 hours. Most midwives are like 48. We were like monitoring temperature and color and smell of discharge, and
yeah,
everything was still super safe, and we were paying attention, and I felt fine. I felt
yeah,
good. Um, but we were like, let's just try the castor oil just to see if we can get it rolling, just
yeah.
to keep ourselves safe.
Hmm.
We really hadn't discussed like admitting, or we weren't anywhere near a precipice or anything. We were just like, let's see if this works, because I took it with Orion, because my waters were open with him for 12 hours before I actually went into active labor.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah. But yeah, so they broke it was weird because I had that weird discharge that morning of my ultrasound 2 days prior to giving birth to them. And then so it could have been like as much as like almost 3 days, 3 full days.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And then I went to the ultrasound and it was after the ultrasound that the contact paper actually tested for amniotic fluid. But I was already having like weird gushes like before that. It just wasn't reacting for whatever reason.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I'm pretty sure like my water's open sometime the night before, or yeah, just a little bit.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so that's why they put him on the prophylactic antibiotics, because my waters had been open for so long, and
Mhm.
having amniotic fluid in the lungs can just be a natural thing that happens, but it can also be indicative of an infection. And because my waters were open, they were like, let's just be safe. And then they had to wait for blood culture results to come back, which is the only reason
Right.
we were there for 48.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But now they're happy and healthy and all is well.
So sweet. What an amazing
And
journey.
we breastfed. We're still breastfeeding.
Yeah.
Um, we didn't ever, I mean, we did a formula bottle here or there, but we never needed to supplement.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah. And how long did when was their first food?
we introduced, for Argo, it was 4.5. Vela didn't eat until almost 6. And they were both interested, but she still had that like reflex where and she wouldn't take a bottle either. So she just has a very sensitive gag reflex.
Hmm.
So she wouldn't eat until about 6 months. He started eating around 4.5 months, and like you could have tried to stop him, but I don't think you could have. Like
Yeah.
he is a monster, dude. And now they both eat so well, but like he just like from the very beginning, and he's so chunky. He's such a big, chunky boy. He's so good.
How much do they weigh now at a year old? Do you know?
He's 26 pounds,
Uh-huh.
and she's like 19.
Yeah.
She's a petite little thing. She's the
Yeah.
smallest of all my kids. At 6 months, all three of the babies weighed right around the same time, the three older
Hmm.
babies, and
Uh-huh.
then Bella, or right around the same weight, which was like 16, because I have it all in my chart.
Uh-huh.
They were like 16 and a half pounds at 6 months, and then Bella's like 14. Like she's just
Uh-huh.
significantly smaller than my other babies all the way along.
Hmm.
Um, she was actually behind him too. Like they weren't left and right in the womb. Like she was behind him. And it's funny too because she's so active and he's so relaxed. But all of the kicking I thought was him because I thought he was
Right.
on that side, but it was actually her. She was kicking me on his side the whole time because she was like behind him and they were like crossed. Yeah.
And getting those legs out. That's,
So, yeah.
oh, yeah. Is there any, let's see, anything else you want to just make sure is said? That was like a thank you so much for sharing so thoroughly your whole journey. What an honor.
It was an
It's so fun.
experience. Um, yeah, I don't know. It was beautiful. And I
Yeah.
think that, without the support of, a very understanding husband, he said, Elizabeth, I know a lot of things, or I don't know a lot of things about birth, but I do know a lot of things about you, and that you're going to make the decision that is best for our children, no matter what it means to
Mm,
you. And that was sort of like that was the piece that did it, that like enabled me to make the decision to go this route. Was really like his confidence in my reasonableness when it comes to things like this, and like his confidence in me that I was making the decision that was best for the children, even though I
hmm.
was worried that I was being selfish, right? It was really his identification of the fact that like you wouldn't do something that would hurt our children to save yourself. Like that's not who you are, and you wouldn't do that. And he's
Uh-huh.
right, like I made the decision that I thought was best for them, which was for them to have a very comfortable, a dark, a personal, a warm, a moist, a inviting entrance. And we couldn't avoid the
Yeah.
hospital, but Argo got the first 4 hours safely ensconced in the arms of people who loved him and cared about him as a person, not as a patient. And I think that's really
Yeah.
important.
Thank you so much for sharing. And um it's so fun just to like just be in conversation with you and um yeah, and to hear your perspective and um yeah, I
This
love
is
with
kind of the first time we've talked through this together.
yeah, it is. I mean, especially like preconception to what to like way
Yeah,
postpartum.
to way
But yeah,
postpartum. Oh, I
way
did want to say
postpartum.
one more thing, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to say that at 36, at 35, I had twins, right? And the postpartum was the easiest of any of my births.
Mm,
And my postpartum period, as far as mood disorders, has been the least impactful. Like I'm the most well regulated. I'm the most comfortable. I bled the least during labor. I bled the least postpartum with this pregnancy than all of my others. Like, and my body went back down to basically better. I don't want to say better than it looked before, but like I was carrying less extra weight than I had when I conceived by the end of my pregnancy. Um,
mhm.
and I've been able to breastfeed nearly effortlessly. And yeah, things have just been really great, like more. And like I attribute that heavily to the difference in prenatal care. Like this is the first time that I had such a personalized experience as having a midwife that was dedicated to me, and one as knowledgeable about herbs and protein and nutrition, and such a nutritionally focused. Like I can't we talked about nutrition all the time, right? And I was so focused on it. I cannot like recommend enough having one person that is there for you, that knows their way around body work, that knows their way around nutrition, that knows that trust their instincts. Like we did all of the things and we worked together, and your knowledge, I feel, was absolutely like the hinge point in me coming through this as beautifully, like better in fact than I did with my other pregnancies. Like I can't thank you enough for that. I don't know if I've ever expressed that to you, but I fully attribute that to your care.
Oh, wow. I don't think you've ever said it quite so clearly. But like, thank you. And yeah, like nutrition is it's just so central. Um, yeah. And also I, I mean, my experience of you is that you were just like so intelligent and thoughtful and proactive, right? And nourishing the possibilities that you wanted, right? You like really cultivated the outcomes for yourself that you wanted, and that included the postpartum. It can't just be me.
Well, I mean, that's true, right?
We worked
It's
well
all about
together. Yeah,
the
you did your
team. It's
part.
all about doing for yourself and surrounding yourself with people that make you feel comfortable, people that know what they're doing, people that you trust to know what they're doing so that it's easy to take their advice. Like you may not be everybody's cup of tea, and other people may hear the things that you're saying and feel skeptical about them, leading them in different directions. And that would make you not the midwife for them. But it's
Sure. Yeah.
important, I think, to like really investigate your options. I think that was kind of what I learned here was like investigate your options. And in the end, I didn't have a ton, but if I hadn't looked to see every opportunity that was available, I would not have been able to find the one that worked for me.
Uh-huh.
So even if you're in an opportunity rich environment and you have many midwives, it's probably a good idea to meet several and pick the one that you really feel comfortable with, right? Because in the end, you'll take their advice better, you'll be more comfortable during labor, and birth is so psychological that like you have to like really cultivate, like you said, cultivate your environment and your
Yeah.
possibilities, your opportunities. I love
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you would want to say? Like that felt like very clear, like words of wisdom to mamas. Is there any other? I mean, I bet we could spend 2 days of you like expressing nuggets of wisdom to
Oh,
mamas
that.
because you're just like so self-reflective and aware of what's happening with you and others, and how things unfold. But uh
Well, I will pass on the bit of wisdom that I think has been the most helpful for my postpartum period and journey as a mother in general, and it's to ask for help. I am a very independent person. I'm very self-sufficient. I have a hard time asking for help. And you guys, you and Melissa Rowe were both very on top of me. Like, ask for help, Elizabeth. Don't be afraid. Ask for help. Keep asking. Like, you don't have to do it all yourself. And like, you guys said it enough that I was like, okay, these people that don't see me even every day are identifying this characteristic and telling me to fight it. So like, maybe I should. So I was like, you know, ask for help. Like don't be afraid to be vulnerable and just let people help you. Like most of the time they want to anyway. They're just looking for an opening. So if you open the door, they'll walk through
so
it.
true, especially when there's cute babies on the other side of the door. People are really willing to help. Okay, bye. Say hi to everybody for me. Say hi to Dallas for me.
I mean,
Okay, bye.
bye.